In this tutorial, we're going to go over the install of Stable Diffusion, as well as some of the capabilities that one of the main models of Stable Diffusion called ControlNet has, and how you'll be able to use it for the upcoming assignment. One thing to note is that this tutorial is meant for users that are on Windows. So this will be solely for Windows users. So having said that, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to search web UI Stable Diffusion. Hit enter. So the first entry I'll find here is Stable Diffusion web UI from GitHub. I'll scroll down and you can see all the files that are associated with Stable Diffusion, as well as the main image, the main page interface, and some of the features that I won't go through right now. But what I will do is I will find, let me go through this. So I will actually, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install Python 3.10.6. So I'll open that in a new tab. So I have the rest of the elements ready. I'll scroll down and I'm going to look for Windows installer 64-bit. So once I have that, it should be coming up soon. So I have that in here. So the other thing is you need to make sure you know where your files are, which drive your files have been installed. So I'll go ahead and run that as an administrator. Now this is an important step. You need to make sure that you actually have checked off add Python 3.10 to path. And if you're working, especially in network computers, you want to make sure that you're only using this for yourself. You're installing for yourself, so you can uncheck the install launcher for all users. We'll go ahead and install now. So once I have that all installed, I'm just going to go ahead and close it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Git. So I'm going to go ahead and install Git. In here, I need to make sure that I'm on their standalone installer, 64-bit Git for Windows setup. So we'll do the same thing. On my download. And we'll do the same thing again, run as administrator. So in here, it's fairly straightforward. We're installing this on the C drive program files. No need to check off any boxes. We can leave as is. Go ahead and hit next. Once the file has been installed, I'll go ahead and uncheck View Release Notes and just click Finish. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go on my C drive. So we'll look for that. So on my C drive, I will go ahead and create a new folder. So I'll right click, new folder, and I'll name this sdiff for Stable Diffusion. And what I'll do is I will go ahead and open up my command prompt. And in here, I need to make sure I'm on my root drive. So I'll type in cd dot dot cd dot dot. Now on my C drive, that's the root drive. The next thing I'm going to do is type in cd space sdiff, hit enter. So now I'm actually on the stable diffusion folder that I just created. What I could do is I can go ahead and type in dir or directory just to see the files that I have, and you can see that there are no files in that folder. Then what I'm going to do is I'll go back into my link on the GitHub, and the third step here, it actually says to download Stable Diffusion repository, and I'm going to copy this command, git clone. I'll go back in here, and then the one thing to note is that I need to actually have a space on the last dot. So now this will actually create, will clone the files that we saw in the GitHub. All those files are actually going to go into the folder that we created. So I'll go ahead and type in dir for directory, and you can see within the directory the files that actually exist in there. And for us to check, so this is the check to do through the command prompt. We can also go ahead, and now we can see that those files have been transferred. The next thing I'm going to do is I need to make sure that I'm downloading the models, so the control net models in there. So in here, I will type pip space install space opencv python. And now this is bringing the opencv python into that folder. So what I'll do is I'll pause the video so we can speed the process up. Once that's all been installed, the next thing I'm going to do is I will click. So I'll go into the folder, and in order for me to open up the web UI interface, I need to click on the Windows batch file. That's this one on the folder, web UI. So I'll double click that. And so now this is downloading all the appropriate folders or files that are in this folder. So this process will actually take a little bit of time. As you can see, it's a 2.6 gigabyte file. So I will pause the video for speeding up that process.
Once we have the file installed, you're going to see that Stable Diffusion Web UI is now currently available. You'll notice that next time you start the Windows batch file, it'll be a much quicker process because for the first time, the files need to be installed. But then later, everything is sort of readily available. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look up the control net. So there's a user that has made the control net available. So what I'm going to do is I'll click here to try to find the link from there. And then I will go in Stable Diffusion under extensions, install from URL. And we'll basically need the URL for, I believe it's the first one, Git's repository, which is this. We'll copy that, paste it here, and we'll just click install, and you'll see the file is processing. This shouldn't take too long. So once that's all installed, we're gonna go under the install tab, check for updates to see if there's any updates available. And then we're just gonna apply and restart UI. So you could see now that we actually have this tab under here that's available. And when we click on it, you can see there's a whole sort of slew of menus in here to that essentially will help guide ControlNet into whichever way we need to essentially feed the information in. So what's important here is that we're going to basically use AI to use our drawings, our sketch drawings, as a basis, but then we can also inform it by using prompts, so things that we can use to guide it, but we can also use negative prompts in order for us to essentially guide the model to avoid certain things, right? So we'll go through that in a little bit, but for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure, and you can see here, so the preprocessors are here already, the models are not. And it's important for us to essentially work with both preprocessor and model. And the language models that have been trained are already available. There's two ways to really kind of go about it. One is under Hugging Face, ControlNet. So these are the some of the files, and you can see under here in models. These are quite large, so it's about 6 gigs per model. We have the canny, depth, HED, MLSD, normal, and so on. This would be a total of 40 gigs. If your drive allows it, you could certainly go ahead and download these. The other alternative, option 2, is if you go to civitai.com, we're going to look up ControlNet pre-trained models. And now you can see that these are smaller models in scale, in size rather. So we have at about 700 megs per model. So you can see canny, depth, HED, normal. I would recommend for you to download all of them, so that way you can see how they each work. We're certainly going to be using, for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to be using what's called Scribble, because Scribble works with lines, as you can see here in this example. So I'll go ahead and download that. As I mentioned before, you can certainly feel free to see how it works and how these models sort of communicate with the AI in Stable Diffusion, what methods they use in order for them to generate. So you can see on the left side is the input, and on the right hand side is the output from the AI. So once you have the files downloaded, I've only downloaded 2 of the models for now, just for the purpose of this tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and cut those and bring them into the ControlNet. So Stable Diffusion. We'll go into extensions, ControlNet, models, And this is where we'll paste, and you can actually see put control net models here. We're going to paste those here. And we'll go ahead and reload. So apply and restart. So now you can see the models already. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to go ahead and use Scribble. And I will choose the preprocessor that matches it. So we'll have a few of those. I'll just choose the Scribble PDNet for now. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'll use, so in your case, you're going to be using your drawings. I've chosen a sketch drawing pre-made. So the next thing I'm going to do is, once I have these things in the control net, and I'm not going to kind of do way too many things in here, I'll just go ahead and use a prompt. So in our case, I'll say Art Deco interior, colorful, Miami Beach, high quality. Maybe we'll add 4K. And here, the negative prompts, I will make sure to say low quality. So I'm letting the AI know that I don't want it to be low quality. And I'll also say dark. So I want it light. And I'll keep it there for now. Ooh, you can always, so at the bottom here, you can see that there's this tab that says preset. I'll go ahead and actually name this. Say Art Deco, call it Art Deco preset. Hit save. So every time I can always recall, and I can certainly create more presets as I go along. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and generate. And you can see that it tries to take similarities from the drawing. So it sees the couch. I can start to then refine this a lot more. So you'll notice the color palette as well, because I said Art Deco. It's using the Art Deco palette as well. I can go ahead and here and name it, for example, Japanese futuristic Japanese interior, for example. The other thing I'm going to do is I'll actually use this for Pixel Perfect. These are other sort of tools that you can use. And the other thing I'll do is, so right here where it says encoding steps, you can go ahead and sort of, you have essentially from 0 to 1 to do that. The other thing to note is that you have the control mode. So right now we're saying balanced. You can choose the my prompt is more important or the control net is more important. And we're going to test those out to see how they each work. So I'll go ahead and generate. Start to see now it's actually picked up a lot of that ceiling area, the columns. And because I wrote Miami Beach, it's actually trying to add beach in here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll remove the Miami Beach out of there. And I'm going to also choose control net is more important, just to see. And this is the key to part of the exercise, is to really test out how these things will actually work and how the AI will respond to a lot of these things. So now you can see futuristic, and you can see the style in here as well. Let's say gold black, gold here, photorealistic. And so you could see that this was actually the control level was more important. I'll actually go back to saying now my prompt is more important. The other thing I'm going to do is the batch count. We'll do maybe 2. Batch size, we'll leave it at 1. And let's see what we get. So now we have the black and gold. This was the 2 that we had just changed the batch count. So now I have 2 different images. We can actually increase that to perhaps, let's say 4. For the sampling size, we can also increase that to 40. And we'll also say that we want this to be more balanced. So you could see that it took a lot of the problem that we used, the black and gold, into account, but it didn't take into account a lot of the elements from the interior that we were using. The other thing to note is because this is actually using a lot of the shading. So I'll go ahead, actually I'll choose a more line drawing because Scribble is more about lines. So we'll test that out. Line drawing. I'll bring out another line drawing so we can see how that works. So bring that in. But first, we're going to try and generate, since we actually changed some of the settings. So you can see what the AI is trying to do. So obviously, this is the 4 different iterations we have. And it's trying to bring, of course, to blend the elements that we talked about. Of course, there was part of it, had to do with the photorealism that we had asked it. So I could say, for example, black and gold, we'll change that. Also change the colorful. So we'll say modern, sleek, elegant. One thing to also note is that AI likes to use, you can use commas a lot to qualify things. You don't necessarily have to use a lot of the long phrases. It's more about keywords because that's really how these models have been trained. They've been trained on certain keywords that trigger certain elements. So really the sort of the bulk of it is taken from online repositories, so online images, and the AI is able to kind of recognize what a table is, what a chair is, let's say what a curtain is and a window and so on. And so once we actually add those elements in, it's able to do a combination of those in there. Now, since I mentioned before that Scribble works more with lines, and now you can see that this is more of a refined sketch drawing. You're going to see now that I'm going to use a different model in here. So I will go ahead and delete this. I'll upload the line drawing that I brought in, and I'll use those elements in there. We'll go ahead and change that. I'll actually get rid of the pixel perfect for now. So I'll just use, we'll also do this, what's called a allow preview. So the preprocessor will actually allow preview to us, and I'll go ahead and generate that. The allow preview is actually used for the preprocessor. You can see how Scribble is actually processing this drawing in there. So now you can see how much more accurately this drawing is being read by the AI. You can see the armchair, the sofa, the elements of the background, and you can clearly see how well those are being read by the AI, and they're represented in sort of rendered quality images, essentially. So now you're certainly welcome to explore. You can change the settings. You can certainly feel free to change a lot of the numbers and so on, and certainly with in coordination with your faculty as well. But this is essentially the exploration that we will be doing, and this is kind of a quick introduction to Stable Diffusion and ControlNet.